Hi guys, I'm Randy, and today on BRStv we're showing off one of the most unique and low-profile power heads currently in our hobby, the EcoTech Marine VorTech MP10, MP40, and MP60. From sizing one for your tank, getting them installed and programmed, to maintenance recommendations and available accessories, we'll hit nearly every touch point of these one-of-a-kind power heads to help you get a better idea of how they can work for you and your reef tank. One of the biggest draws to the VorTech pumps from EcoTech is their one-of-a-kind magnetic coupling system that keeps all the electrical components out of the tank while still producing high flow inside the tank. To many reefers, this is the ultimate low-profile and unobtrusive way to add additional flow to their tanks, since there's no cords inside the tank and the wet side assemblies are all less than 3 inches thick, making them one of the only power head solutions currently available that, when mounted to the back of the tank, has 0 visible cords inside and out. Coupled with that, because there are no cords or wires attached to the wet side component in the tank, there's nothing to unplug or cords to untangle to remove the pump from maintenance, and if you invest in a second wet side assembly, your maintenance gets cut down even faster to just the few seconds it takes to swap them out. The VorTech pumps are DC powered and come with the latest driver technology from EcoTech themselves with Quiet Drive, which not only means that you get an adjustable pump with varying flow rates, but you get a pump that's extremely quiet as well. With the adjustability of being a DC-powered pump, coupled with the built-in intelligent flow patterns, the VorTech pumps can create effects in your tank like a pulsating wave, varying high-energy currents like those found in a reef, or even smart flow modes like nutrient transport, optimize the stir-up detritus, and push it down the overflow into the filtration. Finally, the MP60, MP40, and wireless version of the MP10 are all fitted with wireless functionality that allows you to pair up to 8 pumps together to synchronize their flow patterns, or even program them to be opposite of each other for even more options to how you approach flow in your tank. Not only that, but with the wireless capability of the Vortechs, you can also connect them to the EcoSmart Live platform using a Reef link to get on-the-fly adjustability through your computer or smartphone, as well as program different flow patterns throughout a single day. Let's help you size a VorTech pump for your tank and tank type. Typically, reefers shoot for 30 to 50 times your tank's water volume for flow rates inside the display, usually split between multiple pumps, depending on coral and fish needs, coral placement, and overall aquascape and dimensions of the tank. That means for a 50-gallon tank, we'd be looking for pumps that can provide flow somewhere in the range of 1,500 to 2,500 gallons per hour. With that in mind, EcoTech does have a very easy calculator on their site to help you determine what pumps will work on your tank, where all you need to do is add your tank dimensions and thickness, then play around with the pump choices until it matches your tank goals for coral types. One of the keys to sizing the right pump is to make sure that it will be able to magnetically couple between the thickness of your specific tank. Starting with the MP10 that comes in a wireless or non-wireless option, you can utilize them in tanks up to 3/8 of an inch or 9.5 millimeters thick, which is a common glass thickness on commodity tanks around 75 gallons or less, but it's always best to measure your tank to know for sure. EcoTech suggests that a single MP10 pushes out a max flow rating of about 1,500 gallons per hour, which is usually ideal for smaller tanks between 2.5 gallons up to 50 gallons with low flow demand corals like those with Softies or LPS. However, the most preferred method is to run 2 pumps on opposite ends of the tank at lower speeds, which probably leads to less dead spots in the tank, more random and chaotic flow patterns, and possibly better results overall. The VorTech MP40 can work with tank thicknesses anywhere from 1/2 inch all the way up to 3/4 of an inch or 19 millimeters, and is commonly used on medium-sized to larger-sized tanks with all types of corals. The MP40 has a maximum flow rating of 4,500 gallons per hour, which means a single pump should be capable of providing ample flow for a tank up to 90 gallons. But again, a vast majority of reefers opt for multiple pumps at lower speeds, which can put you in tanks up to the hundreds of gallons. Lastly is the workhorse of the VorTech pumps, the MP60, which can support tanks up to 1 inch thick. These are typically used on much larger systems that require a lot of flow for corals, as well as to get water movement across a wide area. A single MP60 can provide flow upwards of 7,500 gallons per hour, making 1 or more pumps ideal for tanks from 100 gallons to over 1,000 gallons. Moving on to what comes with your VorTech pumps, when you open the box of each, you'll see a driver and dry side, the wet side with foam guard, power supply and power cord, as well as an accessory pack with mounting tabs, zip ties, and Velcro strips for mounting the driver, each of which measures a little over 3 inches wide by 5 inches tall. The smallest of the bunch, the MP10, has a dry side that measures 2.5 inches in diameter and 2 inches thick, while the MP40 comes in at about 3.25 inches in diameter and just about the same 2 inches thick, and the MP60 is a bit under 4 inches in diameter with a width of under 3 inches. The wet sides for each are very compact and share the same respective diameters as their dry sides. However, the MP10 wet side only takes up 1.75 inches into the tank, while the MP40 measures 2.5 inches and the MP60 at just under 3 inches. Lastly, there are spacers for each pump, like a single rubber spacer for the MP10, 3 spacers for the MP40, and 3 spacers for the MP60. Now that you know which one you'll need for your tank, let's walk through getting one installed, starting with mounting the pump. The first thing I'll want to do is determine where the pump will go on my tank based on my specific aquascape, coral types, and coral placement. This is something you can play around with to find that ideal location, but I typically start by placing one in the side and the upper third portion of the tank, but not so high that it sucks in air from the surface. Most commonly, reefers mount one or more pumps on the sides of the tank facing each other. However, there are a couple of intelligent flow modes that also incorporate pumps on the back of the tank for a unique flow pattern with very specific goal in mind. For the protection of your pump and for the aquarium glass as well, EcoTech recommends mounting the dry side with the cord routed upwards to prevent the pump from falling if it gets separated from the wet side. Before running the cable, I'll clean the outside of the tank, then using the included mounting tabs and zip ties, I can neatly route it up and out of the way. Now I can add on and center the wet side, but first I want to scrape and clean the inside of the glass as well. All that's left to do is mount the driver and create drip loops for the power supply, in which case I can utilize the included Velcro strips on the back of the driver and attach it to a clean surface. There are some accessories available to help make mounting the driver and power supply much easier and neater, but we'll talk about that a bit later. With an intelligent pump like the EcoTech Vortechs, the flow patterns you can achieve in your tank are nearly limitless and can support the flow requirements for pretty much all tank types out there. Unlike a standard AC or non-controllable powerhead with only simple on and off functionality, EcoTech's variable flow settings are based on logic and specific goals that allow you to choose a setting and let it run through its pattern automatically, rather than having you manually program multi-point schedules throughout an entire 24-hour period. As I mentioned, there are several flow patterns to choose from, including those geared towards high-energy systems like SPS or mixed reefs, to those with low flow demands like LPS and softies. With this in mind, you can really tailor the VorTech pumps for your specific tank type, such as Reef Crest, Short Pulse, or Nutrient Transport for those high-demand systems like SPS dominant tanks or some mixed reefs. If you have a tank with corals that may not like a ton of flow, you may want to try out more gradual modes like the lagoon, gyre, or tidal swell modes that often provide the softer, lower energy flow. EcoTech does a great job in explaining how each mode works with a handful of button presses, as well as how to change even more features like auto-dimming the driver, changing the battery backup speed, as well as changing the feed mode speed and time. However, let's touch a little bit more on the additional modes that you can access with one or multiple pumps. Whether you have one or more pumps, sometimes you need them to slow down when feeding your tank in order to give your fish a chance to eat. With that in mind, EcoTech programmed a feed mode into the VorTech pump, where all you have to do is push and hold the mode button for a few seconds, and the pump will automatically slow down for 10 minutes, then pick back up where you left off. Another capability of the VorTech pumps worth mentioning is the sync and anti-sync modes, where more than one pump is coupled together wirelessly. Basically, what this means is that you can control multiple pumps with one driver to have the slave pumps either mimic exactly what the master pump is set to, or do the opposite and have the slave pumps run the exact opposite. One of the main uses for this mode is for those who want to create a wave in their tank where the water rocks back and forth. Programming for the VorTech pumps is even quicker and a bit more intuitive when coupled with the ReefLink controller, which allows you to use EcoSmart Live on any device with a web browser or even on a phone or tablet using the EcoSmart Live app to program your pumps. Once you have your account created and ReefLink connected, all you have to do is find your VorTech pumps, add them to your aquarium, and head to the VorTech tab to program them. In the Programming tab, you can drag and drop any of the available modes across the 24-hour timeline, and within each one you can choose options for the start time, duration, and speed intensity. For example, I can have a constant mode of 50% until my lights start ramping up at 9 a.m., then ease the tank into a lagoon mode for a few hours, followed by some high turbulent flow with a reef crest, and finish the day with a nutrient transport mode to help pick up detritus up off the bottom in the rocks and send it down the overflow. Better yet, with an additional pump, I can quickly program it to mimic everything my first pump is doing throughout the day by dragging down the sync icon, or I can choose points of the day where I run it in anti-sync. Finally, with your pumps connected to EcoSmart Live, you also have on-the-fly control through the EcoSmart Live app on a tablet or smartphone. This gives you some of the same programming options as the computer, as well as the ability to quickly cycle through each mode while using sliders for intensity and duration to help you see what the flow will look like in your tank in real time. Maintenance for the EcoTech VorTech pumps is very easy and shouldn't take more than a few minutes to complete when needed. Really, the only part of the pump that should need maintenance is the wet side assembly itself, which could be as quick as a brush or a rinse, or take just a few more minutes for a more thorough cleaning. If you opt to use the foam guards on your pumps, these can also be cleaned in the same way. One of the easiest ways to clean the wet side is to let it soak in either vinegar and water solution or some citric acid solution to break up some of the tougher buildup, then give the prop and prop guard a light brushing and a rinse in RODI water, then put it back in the tank. You can remove the guard by holding the magnet end and turning the guard clockwise until it comes free, which is usually as far as you'll need to disassemble for general maintenance. However, the wet side does break down a bit further if needed. One tip here, we found that maintenance can be made much easier by investing in an extra wet side assembly and some additional foam guards for each pump, so all you have to do is swap out a clean one for the dirty one, meaning that the tank is only without flow for less than a minute and leaves you plenty of time to soak the extra wet side in a cleaning solution until it's ready for next time. Although each VorTech pump is fully functional and ready to go directly out of the box, there are some ways you can accessorize them for access to even more features. Starting with one of the most popular and potentially most beneficial accessory, the EcoTech battery backup. In the event of a power failure, water circulation and oxygen exchange inside the tank can be crucial for your tank inhabitants' survival, so having the ability to run your pumps while the power is out can save your fish and corals and your overall investment. In most applications, a single battery backup should be able to power one VorTech MP60 for about 20 hours, one MP40 for roughly 32 hours, or a single MP10 for up to about 72 hours. It also has an additional 12-volt DC output to split the power between two pumps for about half the runtime as a single pump. On top of that, for longer power outages, you can daisy chain two battery backups together for double the length of a single pump, and with its own trickle-style charger, as soon as the power comes back on, it will automatically start charging to be ready for the next outage. Additional foam guards and wet sides are also available, not only to replace worn-out parts, but better yet for those who like to streamline maintenance tasks, such as cleaning the wet side or foam guard by simply swapping them out with an extra. Outside of that, there are a couple of options that keep your pump cords neat and tidy and out of the path of a potential spill with the power supply bracket and VorTech driver mount. The driver mount comes with the necessary hardware for drywall or solid surface mounting that makes for a very neat and clean mounting system, while the power supply bracket does the same for the larger power supply driver with the Velcro straps for quick removal. Thanks for watching, and if you have any more questions that we didn't answer here, feel free to give us a call, send us an email, or hop on a chat. See you next time on BRStv.